What if DJI's boldest pocket camera does not actually look bold at all? That is the question everyone started asking the moment the first front-facing images of the DJI Pocket 4 Pro leaked. Until now, everything we saw screamed bigger, heavier, unmistakably pro. And then this angle drops, and suddenly the whole narrative shifts. Today, we are breaking down what these new images really tell us, why size might not be the story here, and what DJI's design choices reveal about the Pocket 4 Pro's true purpose. Trust me, this one is more interesting than it looks. Let's rewind for a second. All the early Pocket 4 Pro leaks showed the camera from the back. Large vents, a taller gimbal head, a more industrial-looking rear panel. Naturally, everyone jumped to the same conclusion. This thing is going to be noticeably bigger. Bigger battery, bigger cooling system, bigger sensor ambitions. And honestly, that assumption made sense. Pro usually means compromise-free, and compromise-free usually means larger. So when people imagined the Pocket 4 Pro, they pictured something closer to a mini cinema tool than a true pocket device. Then came the front-facing image, and everything felt different. From this angle, the body looks surprisingly slim. The grip does not balloon into some chunky handle. The proportions feel familiar, almost restrained. It does not scream pro, it whispers it. And that contrast is exactly what threw people off. The gimbal still looks substantial, but the body underneath remains compact. That visual tension raises a bigger question. Is DJI shrinking expectations on purpose, or are we misreading the design entirely? Here's where context matters. Perspective and lighting can completely change how a device feels in photos. A softer image flattens depth and hides thickness. A sharper, high-contrast image exaggerates edges and makes the same hardware feel bulkier. So, when proportions look inconsistent across leaks, it usually isn't because the design changed, it's because the camera angle did. That rear shot made the Pocket 4 Pro feel intimidating. The front shot makes it feel approachable. Same device, different story. Now let's talk about where the size is likely hiding. DJI did not spread the cameras side by side across the body. Instead, all signs point to a vertically stacked camera system inside the gimbal head. That changes everything. Vertical stacking adds depth and height, not width. So from the front, the device looks controlled. From the back or side, it suddenly feels more serious. That also explains the visible vents. Cooling is concentrated where the processing and sensors live, not across the entire body. The result is a camera that looks slim until you really study it. Here's where most people are missing. DJI may be doing this intentionally. If you're DJI, you don't want the Pocket 4 Pro to scare people away. You want it to feel familiar in the hand, even if it performs like something much bigger. By keeping the front view approachable and letting the rear handle the technical complexity, DJI preserves the Pocket identity. You pull it out, hit record, and it still feels like a pocket camera. But behind the scenes, it's doing far more work than previous generations ever could. So what do these images really confirm? Not size, intent. The DJI Pocket 4 Pro is not trying to look extreme. It's trying to stay pocket-sized while quietly stepping into professional territory. That balance matters. It suggests better cooling without sacrificing portability, more power without awkward handling, and a design philosophy that prioritizes usability over intimidation. In other words, this is not a pocket camera pretending to be pro. It's a pro camera pretending to be a pocket. And honestly, that might be DJI's smartest move yet. Because if the Pocket 4 Pro can deliver serious performance without feeling bulky or overwhelming, it becomes something far more dangerous to the competition, a camera you actually want to carry everywhere. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think DJI nailed the balance, or do you still want a visibly pro design that owns its size? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
What if DJI quietly rewired the entire Avata idea and dropped a drone that shoots everything around you in one flight? Today we're unpacking the Avata 3 leaks, or maybe it will be called the Avata 360. And I'll walk you through the timeline rumors, the headline specs, and the real question every pilot is asking: should you wait or buy right now? Stick with me. The part about the camera options and how that changes your whole workflow is coming up, and it might be the reason you either upgrade or keep flying what you already have. Okay, first the big picture. The Avata line has always been about approachable FPV. Compact, ducted, and forgiving. The Avata 2 polished that formula. The Avata 3 leaks suggest DJI wants to push past incremental tweaks. Think bigger sensor options, faster top speeds, longer flight times, and possibly a dual-lens 360 capture setup. Right now, the community is split. Some leakers describe a straight successor with a 1-inch sensor. Others show twin lenses and call it Avata 360. Both scenarios change how you shoot and edit, so let's break down what each would actually mean for creators. If DJI goes with a 1-inch sensor, expect a meaningful jump in low light, dynamic range, and detail versus the Avata 2. That's real for night or indoor work where noise and highlight clipping matter. Now, if the Avata 360 rumors are true and DJI mounts twin 1-inch sensors for spherical capture, that's a different game. Native 360 video, potential 8K spherical capture, and full reframing in post. But Aerial 360 introduces challenges: stitching, vibration damping, and heavier processing. Practical takeaway: a single large sensor gives better traditional FPV footage. A dual 360 rig gives creative freedom but raises workflow and hardware demands. Speed and handling rumors point toward redesigned propellers and a lighter, stiffer frame. Pilots are whispering 120 to 140 kilometers per hour in top builds. Longer flight time is claimed too, with batteries jumping into the 3,000 mAh range and better power swapping. That could mean 25 to 30 minutes per flight in conservative use, which is huge for cinematic runs. But remember, real-world flight times depend on payload, wind, and whether you're recording 8K spherical or standard 4K. If you plan to fly 360 capture, expect reduced runtime compared to a photo-only setup. Another critical piece: sensing. Leaks mention multi-direction obstacle sensing and smarter tracking for 360 awareness. If true, DJI would be solving a core problem with spherical airborne capture. You're recording in every direction, so collision avoidance matters more than ever. Also, regulatory issues could affect availability in certain regions, especially if governments flag data or transmission concerns. That's not new, but it might influence launch timing or whether certain versions ship globally. If you fly commercially, keep an eye on local rules before upgrading. Here's my short answer. If you need reliable FPV performance today and the Avata 2 does what you need, there's no urgent reason to panic buy. If you value low light and cleaner image quality and the 1-inch sensor leaks are accurate, waiting could be worth it. If you're a spherical or VR creator and the Avata 360 arrives with usable 8K stitch and stable workflow, that could be transformative, but be ready for heavy file sizes and new editing demands. My gut, DJI will ship something compelling in late 2025 or early 2026, but expect region-specific availability and at least one variant aimed at creators who want 360 capture. So which side are you on? A faster, cleaner Avata 3 or a daring Avata 360 that records everything and asks you to rethink editing? Drop your take in the comments. If you want quick updates when DJI finally confirms specs, like this video and subscribe so you do not miss the hands-on coverage.